Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Unfiltered Wrestling Podcast. As by ever, we're joined by Tim. Hi, Tim. How you doing, mate?
I'm not too badly. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. So we're here to talk about this past week in WWE, and it's been a frustrating week. I think with how Crown Jewels was, and then the week after, things were going somewhere, and it just feels like we took a back step. But now, obviously, we know WWE's been plagued with injuries, so they're having to pivot. But I don't know if they're pivoting in the right way. So I think the best way to do this, team, is just break down sort of each story instead of going across the two brands. So, where do you want to start?
What I want to mention from the start is that we will not be going over NXT Halloween Havoc. Please watch the video before this one. You'll see it. We've already covered that. We'll just mention briefly. But yeah, let's start with probably the big one, and that is the Vision. Let's start with Raw, and let's start with the big thing with Vision. I liked the Adam Pearce and the Bron Breakker promo at the beginning. I thought this set us up. I was like, yes, let's go. Let's have a really good story. Yet again, proving to me that Bron Breakker is a lot better on the mic than people are giving him credit for.
Yeah, no, totally agree. So, obviously, we had a lot of people say it was pettiness of saying please to give back the title, but that's what you want from your heel guys. He's got to be petty. They're them type of heels. So I think it was a really good segment, but then I think it went downhill from then with the Vision, as in, obviously, the Battle Royal got announced, the Vision were in the Battle Royal, and because of the please bit, Adam Pearce removed them from the Battle Royal. And there weren't no comeback from it. I thought if they'd been removed, I thought the Vision would come down and cause havoc during the Battle Royal, and nothing. They just left it for the night. And I just thought that was very underwhelming from the build-up we had, because obviously we haven't been able to catch up since the Seth injury, so we weren't able to talk about together about the turn. But I thought that was really good, really handled. Okay, I've always said it was about 6 months too early, but they had to do that with what was happening with Seth. And then I just then felt this week we've lowered ourselves again from the Vision being the almighty powerful faction because they did nothing about being taken out of a Battle Royal.
No, again, we saw the video of Paul Heyman saying, "Look, trust me, we've got this planned. We need to trust and work the way through." And maybe that's what we're gonna do. I'm really edgy. I think what will happen is that before the end of the year, Bron Breakker is going to be world champion. I think it's a little bit too soon, but I don't think they've got a lot of choice. I think they painted themselves into a corner, and I think this could be a big problem. What it's worth mentioning is, as well as that, we also saw a video between Paul Heyman and Becky. I think of all the Vision stuff, that was the best thing they were involved in. What a promo from Becky.
But I also think we're now going to get a different Seth when he comes back. We're going to get a face Seth and a new character completely, because I think he's now going to be gunning for the Vision whenever he's back. So he's going to come back as a super face.
See, now I was with that opinion until I saw that promo, because whatever happens, you take him out, he's going to be out for at least 8 months. The pop he comes when he comes back, he's obviously going to bring back as a face. There's no question about that. That's all you can do. But with what Becky said, it was like, so she said, Seth didn't trust Paul. She expected him to stab him in the back. He knew it was coming. And he's turned around and said he doesn't have an issue with, he's not going to come after Paul, but he's going to kill the people that he was he's riding the coattails of afterwards. I think he's going to come back with I think you can come away back with almost like a boiled down Seth, a proper badass version rather than the theatrical version we've had for a little while. I think you can get away with it after this promo. I think it's done really well. I think it's also made Becky come out of this looking strong as well.
Yeah, I loved her last week as well after the turn, and then she tweeted, "I've been away for 1 week." I just thought that was brilliant. She just had little things throughout the last couple of weeks. She is great.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, she lost her match with Maxine, which meant she put Maxine over, but she still stayed strong as a result of it. So that, for me, that whole work, the whole vision. But again, it's the vision that with it, the big issue. I'm with you. I think we could have done more with the bronze. It just, yeah, it felt a little bit flat.
And then this obviously led from this story, obviously, into the Battle Royal where the Ultimate Warrior won. I'm not. I'm. I've started to like Jay again because I thought they were doing quite well with his character building with Jimmy, and I know they've had to pivot and they've had to give Punk someone, and he's a merch seller and stuff. But I am a little bit worried that they are going to put the belt back on Jay.
Okay, so gripe number one, and we're going to be griping a lot today, people, griping a lot. They've shown the graphic, and you looked at the people involved in this, and quite a few of them were doing double duty, and there were a lot of tag teams. I'm like, is Raw's roster that thin that we are now literally having to recycle talent? This is a real mess up. You looked at it and you looked at who was involved. For me, your winners were only ever going to be LA Knight, Jey Uso. I think those are the only two I could ever think had a real chance. I think that's just, I think we've wasted an opportunity. That was the time to bring somebody up from NXT. That was the time to start going, let's start fielding some people in. Let's go with it. I think we've lost it.
Totally agree. I think a better way around it, and I was sort of predicting it before, but it never happened, would do a tournament style. So just have 2-on-2s and then a final for that Raw that night. I think we could have got to the same result, but it would have felt better than a clunky battle royal. Like you said, that hardly had anyone in it, people pulling double duty, and we sort of knew the outcome was going to go over, as you said, Knight or Jade. That was the only option.
I mean, don't get me wrong, there were quite a few people I wanted to see CM Punk with. I have to say, there was a part of me that really wanted to see AJ Styles versus CM Punk for a world title on his last run. And I think that would have been, that's money for me. That is bigger money than watching Jey Uso and CM Punk go. But at the same time, it's difficult to still tell that story. I think Jey Uso is going to win the belt. And I think that's probably the smarter option.
Yeah, I think that for a couple of reasons. One, because of how they've had to pivot, and two, it's a Saturday night main event. In America, it's on Peacock. Okay, across the rest of the world, we're lucky now it's going to be on Netflix instead of having the 50,000 YouTube ads. But it's not a big enough platform to give Punk the belt yet, I think. So I think that's why Jay's going to win. I knew they wouldn't. I agree with you with the AJ thing, but because they've just put the tag belts on them, which we're going to talk about in a minute, I don't think you could do that double in this month. So I knew as soon as they won the belts at the beginning of the night, once the CAJ was in the Battle Royal, I just thought, yeah, there's no chance that they're going to let him have that spot as well.
Yeah, I mean, the other option could have been if you wanted, if Punk's going to win it, why not put someone like Dominic Mysterio involved in it? That for me could have been an interesting finish.
Yeah, it's weird though, because the rumour mills are going around that it's going to be Dominic Cena for the Intercontinental belt, but nothing's been built to that yet. We're a week away. So I don't know what's going on there now, because it was going to be, unless they're doing that at the other Saturday night main, I don't know. But that is the rumblings, because John's never won the Intercontinental title or something.
It wouldn't make sense to build it for the nearest one because Dominic Mysterio, and we'll get on to that in a minute, is involved in a different program. This for me is their issue. WWE have been painting themselves into a corner for a while, and they've not got a plan B. Their plan B is a match that we've seen at least 2 or 3 times this year.
I think this is a bit of karma for the fake, because obviously everyone was going on all week, oh, this is fake, like they've done it before. The fact it's sort of art imitating life. They've done a story angle where Seth was injured and all that stuff, and then he legitimately gets injured and he's out. And I still think there's people doubting it now. I think people still think he's going to turn up at Saturday Night Main Event and cost Punk the belt, which doesn't make sense for the vision term. But that's what some people in the internet world are still thinking because of what happened back in the summer. So is it a bit of a karma situation? I don't know.
You could probably argue that. I think the biggest issue you're going to have is when Seth comes back as a face, he's got to almost bury the hatchet with CM Punk, which means we've wasted almost a year's worth of booking. I don't know how you get round this.
So I think the Becky promo gets you round that because she said Seth's coming for everyone you've hand on their coattails. His hand on Punk's coattails, his hand on Brock's coattails, his hand on the Vision's coattails, his hand on Roman's. So I think that gives Seth the opportunity to go for any of those because that can connect back into what Becky said.
Maybe, but it's going to be a promo of face versus face. And we did that at the first Raw Netflix show. I don't know whether we can do it again. WWE are in a corner and there isn't anywhere else to go other than Jey Uso as world champion. And I've said to you, I'm different to this because I don't think he is an Ultimate Warrior. We will have words about this one day. But I think the problem is he's turning more and more almost into that heel role. And I think this is hurting him worse than anything else. I almost wanted to see Jimmy win and Jimmy have a go.
Yeah. Now we'll get back onto Jimmy because I put a video out this week about Jimmy. So we'll jump over to obviously the Drew Cody situation. So Jimmy obviously attacked Drew at the start of the night, revenging Jacob. And then they had a main event. And I know it was for that Cody spot so Drew could drop Cody at the end of SmackDown. But part of me's thinking, could they insert Jimmy into this title match at Saturday night's main event and you get Jay win the Raw, Jimmy win the SmackDown, and then they face off in a Super Champion match?
No, not in a million
Just put
years.
it out there.
And I'm glad you put it out there. So people like me can refute it and say to you, no.
I did say Dom was going to win the AAA title.
I swear if I got... As soon as he loses this belt, right, we're going to have words because that's it. No more Dominic Mysterio shenanigans.
All jokes aside.
Yeah, no, all jokes aside. I don't see Jimmy involved in this. Jimmy seems to be happy in his position. At some point, the Usos have got to have a fight. They've got to have a better one than they did at WrestleMania. They've got to have a fight so that Jey Uso gets his head sorted out and then they can go after the tag teams. We'll come back onto the tag teams in a second. I think that's the big point for them. His involvement in the SmackDown match was interesting because he's just moved from SmackDown and it made sense in the storyline, but I think there's a couple of issues. Drew needed to come across strong. Now, I still think he's going to pick up the belt over Cody. I think this is the way in which we go for the long-term future so that Cody, when he has his next match, gets beaten by Randy Orton.
Yeah. Did you think this is where they were going for Saturday Night Main Event? Because all of a sudden, it was only announced last week that it was going to be Drew Cody again on Saturday Night's Main Event. Do you think they've had to do that again because the Seth Punk weren't going to happen? Because this felt like, or do you think this was the direction they was always heading for Saturday Night's Main Event?
I think this was always the direction they were heading. I think the biggest pivot is putting Punk's title match on the night. I don't think you need two title matches. You have to have the World Championship on there because we've got a vacant champion. We need to get that sorted as soon as possible. The biggest
but they announced Punk Seth before they announced Drew Cody. So the Punk Seth match was always going to be on the card. And then they announced Drew. So they were, if that's what you think the plans were, they were always going to have both titles on the show.
But we already knew that Seth had a bum shoulder. We'd already known about that before Punk was named #1 contender. If his shoulder wasn't too bad, That's how you move that belt over. It's a quick match. Bosh, we end that. We'll move over. They obviously knew he was going to have some time off. Depends on how much time they needed when they realised he was injured. I think the McIntyre Rhodes match has been on the cards for ages, and I tell you, I still think he's gonna. I think Drew wins the title
on Saturday night's main event on a Peacock event. Again, I can see it because of the internet now. We saw stage stuff happen online only, and that's still built into storyline. So I'm not saying that it can't happen. Anyway, it does. We either get Punk win. If Punk wins the belt, Cody's keeping the belt. If Jay wins the belt, Drew's winning the belt. That's the only way I see knowing how the belts are going to go on Saturday night.
Yeah, that's exactly how I see it. If Punk wins the belt, then Cody will keep the belt. And that's again to build up some sort of future. I think because we're obviously leading to a Cody versus Randy match, and if we're going to do that, let's do that at Mania. It doesn't need to be for the world title. Let's someone else have a challenge for it, and let's have a story go through from that point of view. That means Drew needs to win the belt. You know my thoughts. I think Sami Zayn's going to win the belt. I think Sami's going to challenge Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania, and I think that's when Sami wins the belt.
Okay, yeah, you have said all year that Sami's winning the Rumble, which means he's then going on to Mania. So, yeah, that makes sense for your theory. We've mentioned it a couple of times, the tag team division. So this scoop back, Judgment Day obviously lost their titles to the unnamed AJ Lee at the moment. What do you think of this whole situation with the tag belts? It's nice to see different teams other than the New Day.
I liked the graphic that they've been champions for over 100 times and they've defended the belt twice.
Exactly.
You and I have been banging on about this for weeks. Forget it, for months. The Raw Championship is rubbish. They needed a change. I'm going to call this team Dragon Style. That's the way in which you get around it. This has got to be a short-term tag team. It really has. I think that's part of it's got to be to do with the fact that AJ Styles did such a great job with John Cena that WWE wanted to recognise this. And this is the point. I would have been all right with them losing and him winning the Battle Royal to show a good story. If anybody has got some time and they're bored and they want a match, this is the match to watch on Raw. This match was amazing. The crowd were really into it. All four guys were at top level. AJ Styles has got less than a year left. He's made that abundantly clear, right? He needs to face JD McDonough in a singles match. He needs to face Finn Balor. If we're not going to give AJ Styles CM Punk at some point before he runs, then his finishing match be against Finn Balor, because I love watching these two in the ring. They're probably my two favourite guys in the WWE at the moment. They look great. They've just got such good chemistry. And Dragon Lee, I mean, here's the funny part. Dragon Lee managed to catch his foot on a top rope whilst doing a dive over the top ropes and still pulled it off to perfection. You can see his foot catches and it causes him to have to adjust. And if you can adjust in midair whilst jumping onto people, you're a good wrestler. So for me, this was by far the best match on Raw. Bar the PLE, probably the best match of the week. But have we wasted the Judgment Day again? Because this isn't the only issue we had with the Judgment Day. This one. This for me is an issue with the Raw tag team.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, I don't think people appreciate the Judgment Day as much as we should. I think once it breaks up and people go off and do their own thing, they're going to do be great single guys or whatever. But I don't think people realise. I feel like the Judgment Day are the backbone of Raw. They're involved in lots of different segments and stuff, and they do it so well. I don't think people actually appreciate as a unit how well these guys work together and what they're doing for Raw.
Yeah, with you 100%. they, as you say, there are more often than not, they carry the Raw programming better than other wrestlers have done for a while. So let's stick with the Judgment Day and Dominic's victory over Rusev. Again, he's trying to cheat. There was another low blow. We're doing the ring bell. He's coming out to bigger pops than some of the face guys. So it's almost a matter of time before he turns face. But it looks like we're going to get a triple threat between Dominic, Rusev, and Penta. And I love Penta. Penta's my guy. But if he doesn't win this, he needs to be moved away from the Intercontinental belt.
Okay. And do you think that Dom's going to win with the help of the Judgment Day, or do you think this is where they carry on fracturing the Judgment Day? Judgment Day cost Dom.
So if we remember, Dominic Mysterio is the reason why the Raw Tag Team belts had to be defended. He's the reason. Yeah. And because of that, I think there is that big fracturing. We've been expecting, dare I say it, for 18 months, 2 years. We've been waiting for it to happen. It's happening. I think it's just, as long as we do it carefully, we will get away with this. I think he's going to keep the belt. But say, if he keeps the belt, then you move Penta away. Penta's gone after this belt almost literally since WrestleMania, or just before. Let's move him away. Essentially, let's get Rey Fenix with him. Let's go after the tag team gold and let's crown them straight away, because the Lucha Brothers are amazing. But I think we've just got to be careful. And I say this, we've got to be careful that we don't push Dominic Mysterio too hard. If he's going to be a face, let's do it carefully.
Yeah, I'm up and learning about him being a face, because I think he's such a good heel. He's sort of Eddie Guerrero reincarnated, so I think we've got to keep that. But like you said, at some point, WWE do have to go with the crowd. In fact, he's getting matches going to be flying off the shelf. They are going to have to turn him face, and it is going to be before the end of the year, I reckon. So, yeah, it's coming, but I don't think it should really.
No, I'm with you. I'd rather see him as a heel working well than see him as a really meh kind of a face. He is, as you said, he is the next Eddie Guerrero. We love him because he is essentially Eddie Guerrero. His ring gear always makes me laugh. I find him really entertaining. And who'd have thought that was the case? Bearing in mind, 2 years ago, the guy was getting booed out of the crowd. I think they've done really well with him. It's just, what do we do? Where do we go with it?
Exactly, totally agree. And talk about heel and face turns. Over on SmackDown, we had Jade Cargill return. This is a heel turn, but I've always seen Tiffany as a heel. So can you do a heel turn on a heel?
Tiffany is by far one of the biggest faces in the company. How dare you? How very, very dare you?
I mean, character-wise, she's a heel. Just her promos and stuff.
She comes across as cocky.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say arrogant, but she's borderline. She's confident. That's the word we're looking for. She's confident in her abilities. Her stats back her up. This isn't one of those moments where somebody's like waffling, shall we say. She's backing everything up with stats. The only loss that she's had this year was the Stephanie Vaquer, and that's the best that we've got. I think she drops the belt to Jade. I think it's about time that we did something more extreme with Jade. The heel turn for me is where she works. When I think about all her heel work in AEW, it was, I think, at times better than some of her face stuff. I think she's been due. My big question is, where do you go after that?
Yeah, because we've always said, with the depth of how SmackDown's been turning, there's not much for the win. So we knew it was either going to be Nia, we knew it was either going to be Jade again. But the fact they brought her back in with a different story, the fact that they've turned her heel, I think does their feud better than the rinse and repeat we've seen over the last couple of months. But I agree with you. I think this is the time now where Jade's going to get the belt, which is a shame because, like you said, Tiffany deserves flowers. As you said, she's not a waffler. She backs up her stuff. We obviously thought at one point, me and you were discussing that Tiffany might be vacating because she keeps getting concussion worries. The fact that she had a match on SmackDown showed that she can work through what people see as injuries and stuff, which means she's a talent. So it will be a shame when she loses it, but I agree they've got her. And then do we go Jade Nia? I don't know. Or is it time to put up some of the women from NXT?
There has been a wrestler who hasn't been involved in a match since WrestleMania, and we've almost all forgotten about. And there's a story there already. Bianca Belair.
Of course. Yeah. And this proves with the wrestling world how fickle we are sometimes. If someone goes for 2-3 weeks, a month, we forget about them. I totally forgot about her. You just mentioned her.
She's turned up as a bit part over the last 6 months, but she's been gone. And for whatever reason, I'm sure whatever she's doing is fine, but that's a story there ready to go. And Bianca Belair will always be a face. I know they teased a little bit on the WrestleMania build towards a heel. Face Bianca versus heel Jade. That's going to be good. That's going to be amazingly good. Both women are absolute beasts when it comes to the business.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Bianca Belair is like the John Cena of the women's division. She's always going to be face. So, totally agree. Yeah, it should work out well.
Okay, finally, what I want to mention is the women's tag team belts. Charlotte and Alexa were challenged by Bayley and Lyra, and Bayley, in her mindset, shall we say, this could be a match on fire for Raw. This could be an absolute barn burner. But is it time in which Alexa and Charlotte drop the belts, or do you think they keep hold of it for a little bit longer?
I think they're keeping them to WrestleMania. I think it's going to be hard. And I think there's going to be a lot of recycling. I reckon Bayley's craziness is going to kick in halfway through the match. It's actually going to cost Bayley a match. And they carry on with their feud. I know they had their feud where Lyra was stay away from me, but they've become friends again since Bayley come back. But I reckon we're going to get Psycho Bitch Bayley halfway through the match, cost them the match, and then Lyra and Bayley are going to go off and carry on their feud.
I say friends in the loosest way. Bayley may be Lyra's friend, but I'm not sure Lyra's Bayley's friend, shall we say.
Exactly. So I think that's the way them two are heading, and then they're keeping the belts on Charlotte and Alexa.
Yeah, it sounds like a fair idea to me.
Well, we'll find out tonight, Tim, when Raw happens. And so obviously that's been WWE over the last week. They seem like they're in the weeds a bit with their injuries, and they're having to do lots of pivots. So this is where it feels frustrating as a fan, because it seemed like we was heading on a good course after Crown Jewel. Obviously, people can't help injuries, and this is where we need to see how great the creative team are on their pivots and getting themselves out of this situation. One of those stops is Saturday Night Main Event. Join us later in the week for our predictions, and then obviously next weekend we'll have our review.
Yeah, absolutely. What we will say is, unlike Main Event on YouTube, we won't have any ad breaks.
Fingers crossed. Have a good week, everyone, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, have a good week. Take it all easy.